at this point, though, you could ask yourself a question, which is why? Why would a person choose to perform on a modular synth like this, given all the uncertainties, the limitations, all the things that can go wrong when you're performing this way? And if you're going to put the time and energy into developing the music, booking the shows, doing the performances, wouldn't you want to develop something that was going to appeal to a wide audience, a larger audience, and try to seek some fame and fortune out of it? Instead, I'm appealing to this little niche group of people who love IDM or a certain kind of electro. It doesn't seem very smart, but so I guess in a way it gets back to this idea of my last video where I was talking about electro-humanism, this silly genre that I created, or how I try to describe myself and the music I do. In this case, it's that there's a higher good, or there's a higher value than just mere commercial success, that there's an intrinsic value in creating a unique method or a process or something that's truly original to you. I'll tell you one thing, we're going to see if this iPhone 11 Pro microphone works very good, because it's noisy here. Gets back to that whole paradigm I was talking about before between DJing versus live performance. And a great DJ is an awesome thing. Someone who knows how to work a dance floor, that's cool. So there's definitely an art form to that. But to go see an electronic artist just cue up their CD or their album, no matter how amazing it is, and watch them just play it back is kind of boring. And I suppose that's why DJs and EDM kind of went towards the elaborate light shows to kind of compensate for the lack of interest in what you're seeing. I love John Hopkins. I absolutely love his music. But I saw him perform and just DJing, playing back his music, and it was pretty lame. So I'm excited to see him actually go out and perform live, which I guess he's going to be doing now soon as well. So obviously part of the charm of going to see live music is this notion that So obviously a lot of the excitement of going to see live music is this notion that things could go wrong, and you're kind of all out there on a wire, no pun intended, together. And if it's a true performance, no two performances are going to be the same within someone's tour. Really, there's an energy and a sparkle that comes from seeing someone put themselves out there where they could fail, I guess, is part of it. And that you're all experiencing, you're having this shared experience together. That's what I think really drew me to wanting to perform this way on a modular. And the way I've set it up is, I have these prepared sequences. So they're compositions, but they're little sequence fragments that are programmed in, and then I can play them back however I see fit. And then I have control over multiple layers of improvisation. Whether it's how the sounds come in, what each sound sounds like, being able to mix things in different ways, using loopers to transition in different ways. So it's just every time you play it back, it's never the same. Sometimes it's better than others, but so that's exciting both as the performer and hopefully, I think there are enough people out there that enjoy listening to that kind of music and the vibe that it creates. I think I approach my scoring work in a similar way, with a similar mindset, which shouldn't be surprising. Where I'm honest with myself and what my strengths and weaknesses are, and the whole embracing your own voice and letting that be the thing that drives you. Just starting a new long form project now, it's so amazing to, be at that initial stage where you're creating the themes, creating the sonic palette, following your own intuition, not being constrained by, we want it to sound like Hans Zimmer or whatever. It's like, no, let's let your voice speak out and find the emotion that really helps the narrative of the story that's being told on the screen. So it's exciting when you get a project like that. As an aside, I have the Genelec 8040As. I've had them for a long time. Great speakers. They go down to about 50 hertz, which is fine for most situations. I had an opportunity to pick up the subwoofer that pairs with them, the 7070A. Oh my goodness. So this sub goes down to about 19 hertz. And to be able to work that low end in a subtle way is really, really cool. So it's going to be exciting to be able to work that lower range with a little more subtlety and precision, let alone for theatrical things. I'm geeking out on that. So I'm riding along the Chicago beautiful riverfront, and who do I run into but the famous Cory, aka Redstripedown.
Happy Oktoberfest!
From Chicago Music Exchange. If you need any synth-related items, this is your guy.
I can help you out. That's true.
What's the hot synth right now in your shop?
The hot synth right now in the shop is probably the Moog Matriarch.
Ooh, and that is something I lust after greatly.
Just got him in, satisfying some pre-orders, and we will have more soon.
Ooh, nice. I wish you hadn't told me that.
I know. I want one too, man. I got to sell some stuff first.
Okay. But you get to play with one in your shop every day, as if you have all the time in the world.
There's some perks of the job, occasionally. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Cool. All right. Nice running into you.
Oh man.
Yeah.
All right. So this is take 3 of trying to get everything running at the same time. Let's try this again. I was like talking for a few minutes before and realized I wasn't recording myself, but okay, we are back for real now. So in the last video, I went over my performance modular and just went over the routing, how I have things arranged. This time I'm going to get into how the programming works, how I move through sequences, how my loopers work in the ER301, etc. So the teletype is the brains of the operation, and on this side of the grid down here is how I move through different presets, different tracks within a set. And then you can see within each preset, you've got 10 pages where you're basically defining, what you want to happen. So like on this page, these are functions that are defining the other side of the page, what these different buttons do, basically making each button to do different things or each row to do different things. In this case, the top 3 rows are controlling the first looper, bottom 4 rows are controlling the second looper, and various functions of it. And the fader module here is connected into this module, and all these modules are connected in the back with a bus cable. So as the fader information comes in here, the teletype can read it and send the data wherever it needs to go. There's also a couple telex modules, the input and the output, which I'm using. But basically, so I pull up a preset on the teletype, it defines the buttons I want over here, and then it tells this Ansible module, which is running Kriya, it tells it which track to pull up on that side, which preset. So it sets everything up for me, and then defines the tempo. This other Ansible module, and the Kriya I'm controlling over here to this Ansible. Then this Ansible is going to my ARC, which is basically, it can do a lot of really cool things, but I'm really just using it as a glorified LFO at this point to control the wave tables primarily on the 370. So pull up a track. The teletype is then sending out, I have found you can control the Kriya clock in the back plane through some different functions, but I've gotten better sync success by just sending good old-fashioned pulses out of the teletype, and then I send the pulse to the Ansible, to the variegate, and to the key step to keep things synced. And that's given me tighter sync than trying to do it in the background. I'm not sure why. And reset values are coming out as well. And then this other control voltage from the teletype is it's doing something cool. It goes to my kick module, and I can tune my kick. So the kick is always matching the bass, which I talked about in my last video, but that's coming from the teletype. Let's pull some things up. So I've got my variegate running. This is my hat, my clap. Those are coming from these modules. That's the BLD. So on the BLD, the cutoff and the coarse tune are right next to each other, and several times live I have thrown the thing out of tune, and I was really trying to grab for the cutoff. But so I put a little Gerolsteiner cap over the coarse tune so I don't do that live. And then it's one of the voices here from the 370. And all the voices go through a Schwayman QMMF, so I'm using 3 channels of that to give myself filtering. The Quadra is doing the envelopes for it. So when I want to change, I have 4 sequences in this track, and when I want to change one, I just cue it up, and now it's gonna go to, it's just a little chord change, so I can get a progression. So here's the second voice. Go to the third one. And you can see the notes if you go here for each of the 4 tracks. Let's bring in that kick. So all of the, not all, but so I have the percussion from the 301, the kick, and some of the percussion from the noise engineering stuff going through this IntelliGel mixer, and that gets fed into my main mixer as like I don't know what they call it, but it's an auxiliary input that goes straight to the outs. Everything else within the mixer goes through the WMD compressor, which is being side-chained by my mix-up. So when I bring in my kick, you'll hear that side chaining start to happen. I can overdo it, so you really hear that now. So that's how I'm getting some pumping action going. Let's turn that down a little bit. Then I also have, on the way out, I have the WMD DJ style Overseer filter. So that's pretty cool to have. And for effects, I've got the audio damage reverb. There you hear it. So you can hear that, hear the kick change, but I can tighten it up. Here's the third voice. Okay, let's change to a different drum pattern. And then these are some of the sampled drums coming from the 301. So I have that third voice. I usually use that pretty tight as more of a percussive sound. Put a little reverb on the clap. And then let's bring in the, so right now on this track, the key stuff is just playing a sequence that repeats over and over on the Modular, with a little sequence pattern. Quarter note triplets, I think. And I can do stuff like it. Play around with it. Nice function here, and the way I'm using the loopers is I have two loopers set up in the ER301. So I have my cue output going into the looper. So if I want a particular track to go in there, I just hit the cue button and then I go into record here. So now that sound is going in my looper, and you'll hear it here. So that's coming from the looper. I can filter it. Okay, now that I've got it captured, I can turn off the recording. And I can move around within the... and I can do a division on it. This is my, this fader is my length of the kind of granular window. So let's put another, let's use the other looper. Let's send the keyboard into this other looper. And this one has more of a gritty sound to it, partly because it's going through the trash master, which both will distort and filter it. But that makes for it's great for creating this nice ambience out of whatever I put into it. So that's our keyboard going through the looper. So we've got that captured. You can play around with it, the tuning, lower it, low, really low. And then this has kind of an envelope effect on it. Let's turn the effects off. So together. So that's how the loopers work, and I'll show you in a second how I use it to transition. Go to another drum pattern. So that's coming from this guy. I can speed it up. And that's just a wave table. Like an alternate bass sequence. How I try to use these noise engineering guys. example of how I kind of can play around with the noise engineering percussion live. So let's do an example then of what else can I show you before we get out of here? So I showed you the Kriya a little bit, how I'm using the looper. The faders are controlling the looper, how I'm using the voltage block to kind of play around with my percussion things. Trashmaster is on one of the loopers, the other looper's going through the Schwayman, so that's basically it. And then I have some percussion coming from the first channel, the 301, which this kind of stuff. A little bleed there. Some of these channels bleed if you have them too hot, but the muting is handy for that. So. Put a little effects on it. So when I'm getting ready to go to a new track, start to fade things out, fade the looper in. So all I'm left with are my loopers. And then, while that's going on, I can cue up my next track. I can go here, and it will sometimes throw those off a little bit as the tempo changes, but it's just kind of a cool effect anyway, so I don't care. And then I've got my next track all loaded. I can fade out the loopers, fade in stuff for my next track. Effects off. So that's how it works. So now I'm into my next track, you know, without losing the vibe at all. Some things. And then I can, at some point, load up the loopers with sounds from this track, so I can throw that into the looper. So that's essentially how it's working. So what have I not shown you? Yeah, I think that's about it. So next time I'll get into, I have a few things I do with the Norns, and I'll show you how that's working next time. But for now, thanks for watching.